Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to another episode of the Van Buren Variety Show. Thank you very much for joining and tuning in. I am Bob Van Buren, your host. Glad you're here. For those newcomers that are just checking us out, every week I have an individual guest on to talk about an individual topic. Might be their hobby, profession, special interest, maybe musical entertainment. So you never know. So if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, and you will get updates to see what previews are coming up. Tonight, we've got a very good special guest talk about a really great topic that touches us all. We see as we go along, our parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, we all age. If we live to be in our 80s, 90s, maybe even 100, as a person gets older, they need more help, whether it be physical help, whether that means someone to help them take track of their medicine, make sure they're eating right, the nutritions. And sometimes we need places like that to help us take care of our elders. Sometimes we don't have the time. It's really unfair sometimes for to keep a older person at home, but then the person goes off to work and the person is left there for 8, 9 hours a day with no supervision, nobody to cook for them, nobody to check their medicine, nobody to help them dress or remind them of some. So we see the generations getting older as we go. For example, here's a picture of my great grandmother on the right. She lived to be 100 years old, and that actually is her 100th birthday. On her left, or actually on her right, your left, it was her best friend, and she was in her upper 90s as well when she passed. And they both had assisted living. They both had people to take care of them. They lived very, very long lives. And there are places all over America, such as this picture here, where there's someone there to help an elderly person that needs this help, physical help, mental help. And it's a comforting to know that we've got someone there that'll take care of our older people as they go along. Sometimes they just cannot function alone. And it's great to have places that will take care of this person in our absence. As you probably recognize from an earlier episode, that's me and my grandmother. And she lived with some relatives who helped take care of her. But when they couldn't anymore, she had to go to a nursing home for a while, but she got nothing less than quality care. And so I'm very, very proud about that. So that's what tonight's episode is about: residential assisted living. Now, we've all heard that term, but what exactly is residential assisted living? We're going to talk about that as well, an opportunity in residential assisted living. And that brings up my next guest tonight. So I'll bring him on now.
Hello, Bob.
Hello, Gene. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gene Guarino. He's going to be talking to us more about residential assisted living and, as we go along, an opportunity. So stay tuned for that. You're going to want to hear that. So, Gene, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for having me on.
Let's just get down to it. What would be, for some people that maybe not familiar, what is your definition of residential assisted living?
Yeah, let me give you a big idea because I think a lot of people think of either a hospital or they think of the Golden Girls, right? So we're almost right in between. So what we do is not medical. Let me start there. And two, it's residential. So we take a single family home, we convert it into use for assisted living. So that use for the assisted living is it is not medical care, but there are caregivers 24/7. It's not a retirement home. These people don't need a nursing home, but they can't be home alone. So it's right in between those two. It's a residential setting, and we teach people how to do that all across the country.
So they don't actually have to go to what we would say a center. It could be, it may be in their own home or somebody else's home. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. It's not it's when we say center, a lot, again, you mentioned nursing homes, so we're not a nursing home. A lot of the big box facilities, Brookdale, Sunrise, Atria, they do have a big, huge center, or they have a
Mhm.
big, huge community where there might be independent living, assisted living, as well as nursing care. We just do assisted living in a residential setting. So it's a
I see.
home. Yeah, that individual, like your grandma wouldn't it wouldn't be in her home. She would move into our home. So our home
I
might be
see.
right next door. There might be 10 seniors in there all together, and caregivers who are there throughout the day and the night taking care of their needs.
So let's kind of break that down because that was, before my grandmother went into a nursing home, even long before, I would hear the term assisted living
Mhm.
and I would hear the term nursing home. Can you kind of tell our audience kind of what is the difference between a nursing home and assisted living?
Yeah, and the big difference is going to be medical. So when we say
Okay.
nursing home, it's going to have nurses, so 24/7 nurses, doctors on duty. They're there all the time. Where in assisted living, those people who are there don't need doctor's attention 24/7. They don't need nursing care. They don't need to be in a hospital, but they can't be home alone because they might have a fall in the middle of the night. They might need medication management. They probably
Yes.
definitely need some uh, housekeeping, that medication management, some bathing, some feeding, everything that we talk about the term ADL, activity of daily living. And that's pretty much everything you and I did after we hit the snooze alarm this morning. So bathing, eating, housekeeping, medication management, and so on. But
Hmm.
nobody moves into assisted living unless they need assistance.
I see. So a big difference there. Just
Hmm.
to help, like I said, help people keep track of their nutrition, maybe, or their daily
Well, it's
medication,
not
or just
it.
remembering stuff. Is that what
Well,
that
it's
is?
not helping with it. The food is fed to them. The caregivers provide
Oh,
food and they're
okay.
taking care of them 24/7. So it's not really helping them with their food as much as it is they're being served. So everything's taken care of for them.
I mean, yeah, that's probably a wrong choice of words that I use. Yeah, they do get fed. I mean, it's like they
Oh,
have
yeah.
their own little living space there. And so, okay. Yeah, I've always heard those terms. And so I kind of want to clear it up for my audience and kind of exactly what that is.
Right.
Well, let me ask you, how long have you been in the assisted living business, I guess I could say?
Yeah, from the business perspective, I've been involved for 8 years now. So when I say 8 years, it was about 10 years ago that my mother needed help. And when she started, her health was failing. She actually fell out of bed one night.
Oh,
When she
no.
tried to get back into bed, she cracked her ribs on the footboard.
Oh,
She went into the hospital. And whenever you have a medical issue like that, that's kind of the beginning of a downfall. So
yes,
it took her a long time to heal. And when it came time for for us to take care of her, because we're going to do that one way or the other, we
absolutely.
realized, my goodness, I God didn't make design me to be a caregiver. And being a caregiver for your own mother or grandmother is very different than being a grandson or the son.
Hmm.
So the idea of having trained professionals, caregivers, take care of them, that's really where it all started from. And that 10 years ago, when mom had that incident, that's when we really became real. I knew it was a business opportunity, but until it was mom, it really didn't make a big difference. But now it's mom and it's a huge difference. So we started to look for solutions. We couldn't find what we were looking for. And that's when we created it and created the Residential Assisted Living Academy.
I can relate with that because, like I
Hmm.
told you the story about my grandmother 2 years
Right.
ago. She was living mostly independently in her own home, but she fell
Mm.
and she broke her hip.
Yeah.
And at 98, that wasn't very good.
Wow.
So at that
98.
point, I mean, our family just we couldn't take care of her. We needed 24/7 care.
Right.
And so I know a lot of people might feel guilty. I know not just nursing home, but assisted living. And
Hmm.
I'd like to just kind of clear that up. You're not abandoning that person. It's an act of love because in my opinion, you're giving that person 24/7 care where if you keep them at home,
Hmm.
most people still have to go to work. You're leaving them there alone to their own devices where anything could happen. So I
Hmm.
don't think there should be a guilt trip. Do you agree?
I totally agree. And I think, a lot of times people say culturally, our culture wouldn't do that. Well, in the US, we're not going to abandon mom, just like you said, either. We're going to take care of them, but we're not designed to be caregivers. And
Right.
I run into a lot of people, Bob, who are put in a position where they almost have to neglect their own kids and their own family, their own careers in order to be that caregiver. And they're just like you said, they're not trained for that. That's not their, it's not the best thing for them. So in the US, it's more common, if you will, for somebody to go into assisted living to be taken care of. And then the family is left to pay for it. So the economics of it can be very distressing. Yeah, that's a way to put it, where it can be really expensive and really disturbing
Sure.
to the family. But there are solutions for that as well.
So, an assisted living center, just on an average, about how many people can be in assisted living, like a resident, should I say?
Yeah, in a residential assisted living, 10 might be the average. So it might be a 3,000 square foot home with 10 residents in it, some in shared rooms, some in private rooms. But it could be as small as 5 or 6, and it could be as many as 15 or 20 people in that home.
Really? Do they have activities then for the seniors as well? Things they could do? I mean, I'm not sure what arts and crafts or just something that they can do.
Exactly. Yeah, we do. I have to say it that way. Not everybody does when they do theirs. We don't skimp, so we have people coming in doing everything from music therapy, pet therapy. There'll
Oh,
be
really?
exercise, all kinds of things that we bring people into the home to provide that for those seniors. But it's not always like that in everybody's home. But our homes, our students, that's what we do.
Is there an average age that you've seen? I mean, what's usually, or is there an average age that you've seen in assisted living?
Yeah, there really is. It's in the mid 80s. The youngest I've actually ever had in my homes was 49, but that was
49.
incredibly unusual. He was obviously younger, but his health was failing. But
Hmm.
the only place for him to get that 24/7 care was in an assisted living. So the oldest I had was 104, and that's unusual as well, to live that long.
104 years old.
Yeah, to live that long is unusual too. So mid 80s, and they usually need actually AARP did a study, and 90% of all seniors would rather live in their own home, but 70%, 70, are going to need help with those activities of daily living for an average of
Absolutely.
3.5 years. So some need a little bit of help, some need a lot of help, but it's not medical. That's a key point.
And sometimes, as we age too, we lose memories and we can't keep track of things. So there's somebody there to kind of help them remember things, I guess you could say. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, when somebody moves into assisted living, it's really about taking care of them. I would love to be able to tell you it's all about making their experience the best and bringing to life different
Hmm.
things. But the reality is, with 10 seniors, 10 residents, and maybe
Right.
two caregivers taking care of
Oh,
them,
yeah,
it's
sure.
really about taking care of their momentary need, that physical need. And then there are those magic moments where you can take the time to spend with them and learn about their past. And their families come to visit. Some I wish they'd come a lot more. Uh,
Sure. Hmm.
yeah, but our goal is to turn those golden years into platinum years and to provide a safe, secure environment where their parents are well taken care of. So when they come to visit, they have a good visit for a few hours or an afternoon, and they know that they're being well taken care of.
And I'd like to stress that too, Gene, just for my audience. When you put a loved one in assisted living, they're getting 24/7 care. I
Mhm.
mean, we as human beings, we can't go 24/7. I mean,
Mhm.
we not only do we have our own lives, we physically need our sleep. Whereas in assisted living, they have shifts, correct? There's people that come in for what,
Mhm.
an 8 hour, 4 hour shift, whatever. So you're constantly having people there all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, we typically do 12-hour shifts,
12 hour shift.
those caregivers, they're not highly paid. They're not doctors or nurses. They're trained according to whatever the state requirement is. But the point is, they typically do 12-hour shifts, and they'll do 3 or 4 shifts. Some will do 1 shift a week. But yeah, the key is that they are being taken care of by people who are trained properly and do understand the need of the seniors and how to take care of them.
That's great. I applaud that. I have
Mm.
known people in the past that have had that were in assisted living. Um, no, it wasn't a big name. It was just like an individual one, but I could see the change. It was a lady that I knew, and
Mhm.
she enjoyed living there because she
Mhm.
could talk to other people. She was a
Yeah,
widow, so she wasn't alone. She had
right.
other people to talk to, especially people her own age,
Mhm.
and so we could see the change that she really, she didn't feel insulted at all having to leave her home. She wanted to go there, and so she lived a full life there. So I
That's
applaud
great.
the business assisted living business. So we talked a little bit about assisted living,
Mhm.
but now we're going to shift gears a little bit, which I'm very interested in. So, ladies and gentlemen, here Gene's going to talk about a residential assisted living opportunity. And here's the key word, opportunity. So,
Yeah.
Gene, I'll let you take it from here. What's a residential living opportunity?
Yeah. The first thing to understand, there's really two plays. One's a business play, one's a real estate play.
Hmm.
And I can describe them both. But the bottom line is that you're all going to get involved in assisted living one way or the other, either by owning the real estate, the business, or you or a family member may be lying in a bed writing a check to somebody who does.
Hmm.
So on the real estate side, if you want to own real estate and lease it to an operator of, you can get typically twice the market rent with a long-term low-impact tenant. So it's not the senior is the tenant, it's somebody who's operating a business called the
Sure.
residential assisted living business. they're renting the home. If the home normally rents for 2,000, maybe they're willing to pay 4,000. And the reason why is because they're going to be able to make a lot of money from the business aspect. Currently, right now, on the business side, the average person in assisted living is paying $4,300 per person per month. And if you have 10 of those residents in the home, that $43,000 of potential gross income is considerable, considering it's a single family home. The expenses are about 80% of that, 70, 80% of that. So the profit might be $8, $10, or $12,000 a month from that home. So it's considerable profit. It is an effort, but it's a tremendous business play, tremendous real estate play. And that's what we train people how to do.
So you're talking about actually someone owning a senior care center,
Mhm.
correct? Or leasing, should I say, or would I say leasing a building out for senior care? Which one was more correct?
Well, yeah, they're both correct because there's actually three ways to do it. You can lease a home and use it for this, you can buy a home and use it for this, or you can build a home suited specifically, designed specifically for this. So it's either rent it, buy it, or build it.
Oh wow, wow. So again, you could build it from scratch, or if you could
Mhm.
have an existing structure, or should I say home that you can convert into.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And really, the big question that people ask many times is where? What's the best location? And that's a great question because location is the key. It's not a house that's way out in the middle of nowhere. It needs to be near the people. Because if you and I are brothers, Bob, and our mom needs care, we're going to pick a place that's convenient for us to get to. Not an hour or two outside of town. So it's a project, a day long event to go see her. We want to be able to stop by after work where it's convenient and easy. And you and I are going to really be making the decisions about where mom lives at that point. We're going to choose the home, we're going to choose the price range it's in because we want it to be convenient to us to be able to go see her.
Absolutely. Would there also be a consideration because sometimes residential neighborhoods, uh, I'm looking for the word zone commercial. Does something have to be zone commercial to operate a assisted
Yeah.
living, or can it be anywhere?
Yeah, zoning is always very local, but it's residential, not commercial, and it's
Mhm.
being used for a residential purpose, which is housing these seniors. So, for instance, we have homes and it could be in an HOA, so homeowners
Okay.
association. And in
Hmm.
the HOA, they may have rules, and the two typical ones that come up that people are concerned about is operating a business out of your home, one, two, having more people than you're allowed. So both of which are discriminatory, but let's start with the business one first.
Okay.
If somebody says, "Hey, you can't operate a business out of your home," it's like, "Well, what do you do?" "Well, I'm a real estate agent." "Do you have an office in your home?" "Well, yes, I do." "Well, you're operating a business
You
out of
got
your
them.
home. So you can't discriminate against me." Second, some places say, "Well, you can only have X number of people that are unrelated adults, like four unrelated adults or six
Oh,
unrelated
really?
adults."
Okay.
And a lot of times those rules come up because it's near a college or something like that. They don't want a fraternity, a sorority with 100 people there. That's not what it is. It's a home for these seniors. These seniors, when you're elderly and you're disabled, those are two main protections of the Federal Fair Housing Act. So we know that. We've literally helped thousands of people create these homes in neighborhoods. You could be living right next door to one and you wouldn't know it. There's more than likely not a sign there. There's not a lot of cars there. It's quiet there. You're not going to have teenagers partying in the backyard and running their cars up and down the street in the
That's
front
true.
yard. Yeah, the caregivers come, they stay, and they go home at night. The next shift comes in, and it's a wonderful neighbor to have if you actually have that opportunity.
So, I mean, just kind of make sure I got understanding. Let's just say that's a typical, maybe older home, but nicely kept, a 3 or 4 bedroom house. Uh, and it has a large kitchen, large living area, large yard. I mean, you could set that house up as assisted living. Would that be a
Yeah.
correct statement?
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, you're going to have more bedrooms than that. It might start as a 3 or 4 bedroom house, but then you'll convert space and you might end up with 6 or 8 or 10 bedrooms or more. On the outside, it's still a
Oh,
single family home. It's X number of bedrooms, X number of bathrooms. But like you said, it's a shared kitchen, it's a shared family room. It's not everybody has their own little apartment, they're living together as a family, one kitchen, one family room, one library, They have access to the backyard and so on. And again, these people are not running up and down the street to the store
Yeah,
or the opera or anything like that.
sure.
They're not driving. They're in assisted living because they need assistance.
So you talk about adding extra rooms. If this house had maybe a single garage or a double garage, you could convert that garage into another bedroom, and maybe with a bathroom there too. I mean,
Absolutely. One of the best places to convert is the garage, especially if it's attached, because you have a floor, you have walls, you have a roof. You just need to convert it from that into actual living space, and always do it with permits and do it properly.
let's talk about the permits. So if think of, I'm thinking of my grandmother's old house.
Mhm.
It's a 3 or 4 bedroom house, but it's kind of a large house too. So let's just say I want to go into business, okay, and I've got my grandmother's house now. What permits? How would I? I mean, what would I have to do on the ground level just to
Mhm.
start that up?
Sure. And every state's different. So that's the first thing, is that every state's different. We
Okay,
have like a 10-step process. Step 1 is find the right location. And that location is based on the demographics, not the scenery, not mountaintop, oceanfront.
I
It's
see.
who lives in that area, how many people, what age are they, how much money do they make? It's the demographics of the
I
area.
see.
Then the second one is going to be learn the rules of the game. Because if you're in, let's say, Texas, and the state of Texas, the state rule allows you to have 16 people in a single family home. That's considered a small assisted living home.
16.
16.
Oh,
Everything's
wow.
bigger in Texas, right?
Yep, that's
But
where
if
I'm at.
there it is. So, and if you're in Dallas, the city of Dallas, they only allow you to have 8. So, and that's discriminatory, but let's just say Dallas, the city of, says 8 people,
Mhm.
that's your limit. So you could have 2 homes next door to each other and you could have your 16, or you could have one large home and do it outside of the city of Dallas and have 16. But the breakdown, if you will, the application to do this really has 3 parts. The first one is your house needs to be senior safe, not ADA compliant. We're not hiring people with disabilities to take care of somebody with what is considered by law a disability. They need assisted living. And number 2 is going to be, you need to have rules. So in the industry, it's called policies and procedures.
Okay.
Any other business would call it standard operating procedures, but you need policies and procedures from checking in to checking out and everything in between. And then the third piece is you need to have a qualified manager. So every state's a little different. Until a year or so ago, Texas was basically what I call FAM, which stands for fog a mirror. You're a manager, right?
I gotcha.
Say FAM. There's your joke of the day.
I got that.
But now it's a 24-hour course, and you need to be approved by the state, which is very simple in the state of Texas. Other states, like I'm in Arizona, you need 60 hours of training to be a caregiver, another 40 hours of training to be a manager, and 2 years of experience as a caregiver to become a manager. So some states have a high bar and
Wow.
some have a low bar, but the house needs to be safe. You need written rules and you need a manager.
I see.
Mhm.
And of course, now if you operate a assisted living like that, you'd also have to get qualified caregivers in there. You have to make sure you hire a good staff, of course, as well.
You do, and it's really critical. And again, we teach people how, but the states many times have very low bars. I'm going to go back to Texas, not picking on you, but just since you're going down that route.
I'm
But in
here.
Texas, you can be a caregiver as long as you're 18, have a GED, and that's it. It used to be no hours of training at all. Now they
Wow.
require 12 hours of training within the first 30 days. So you can do on the job training. Now, with our academy, that's not good enough. That's not what we want. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for really highly qualified caregivers who are properly trained and receive continuing education. So
Sure.
other states do have a higher bar, but each state's unique. And that's the same whether it's Brookdale on the big end or whether it's a single family home being operated as a residential assisted living.
And most people, I think, would agree with that because I mean, if you're putting grandma in assisted living, do you want someone who just got out of high school and has a GED or whatever, or do you want someone who had all the training, the qualifications, the
Mhm.
education? I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of you want that qualified person. So
Yeah,
obviously
and
the training is keen. I mean,
I think
it's
most people just assume. They just assume this person must be properly trained. So, if I were to give you some tips for everybody who's listening on what to look for in that care home, really the caregivers, that's a key. The manager, that's a key. And obviously location and price and everything else, but it's about care. It's not about the crown molding. It's not about the
mhm.
furniture. It's not about all the goodies that go with it. It's really, are the caregivers qualified? Do they love those seniors? Do they want to be a part of the solution, or are they just there to collect a paycheck and punch a clock?
Yeah, I mean, everybody, as I said in my monologue, everybody has, aging family members. You're going to see that's
Mhm.
going to need assisted assistance like we all have. We have a comment in the section, our live chat. I thought it was just not a question, but I thought it was nice. Randy says, I used to work for a Brookdale community at one time, security and maintenance. Loved working there with some of those people. So
Mm,
thanks, Randy. Yeah.
that's
So,
nice. Very
oh,
nice.
go ahead.
I was going to say that's great. And Randy was in security and maintenance. Randy, you can comment back on that. But during the day in a big box facility like a Brookdale, there might be one caregiver for every 15 residents. And at night, there might be two caregivers on staff on duty all night long, two for 150 or more people. In a residential assisted living, there'll be our rule of thumb at the REL Academy is 5 to 1. So one caregiver for every 5 residents. And at night, if you have 10 seniors, you'll still have just one person, but 1 to 10 at night versus in a big box, it might be 40 or 50 to 1. So very different.
And Randy brings up a good point too. I mentioned earlier, but said that I operated a senior assisted care center. I naturally want qualified caregivers,
Hmm.
but I've got to think of other staff. For example, security. You'll
Hmm.
need security there as well, a maintenance
Well,
person. So
yeah,
there's a lot of people to
maintenance.
think about. A lot of employees have to think about.
Well, actually, in a single family home, there's not a lot of security happening. The front door locks just like it
Sure,
does at your home. And the
sure.
maintenance is done by the caregivers are keeping things clean inside. And we have a handyman that takes care of things just like in my personal home. I don't take care of things. I have somebody else come and take care of the small things.
I see.
Mm.
So when a person, in your experience, when they've opened up a senior care facility, have you seen in your experience, do they start small? Do they just jump in with 2 feet and they go big? Or how do you see people, and like I would say, an entrepreneur starting out?
Yeah, one of the most important piece of advice I can give to somebody is number one, if you're going to think about getting into assisted living, get trained first so you really know what it is and you know what to expect. Two, don't go small because it's just as much work to do a 5 bed home as it is a 15 bed home.
Oh,
So you're
really?
going to go through all the same work and effort to get up and running, but you're just limiting your income dramatically. It's kind of like having a restaurant that seats 5 people or a restaurant that seats 15 people. You can make a
I
lot more
see.
money if you have 15 customers at a time instead of 5.
So absolutely make it worth your time. Start
Mhm.
big.
Yeah.
Think big.
Yeah, and it's all relative because you said big or small, and somebody else is thinking 15. That's tiny, yeah, compared to the Brookdale that Randy was working at. Of course, it is, but for residential assisted living, 10 and there's metrics. Like if I said 5 to 1 during the day, so 10 residents, 12 residents is good.
Mhm.
And if I could do 15 or 16, like you can in Texas, I would absolutely do that because I would have 3 caregivers during the day and then 2 caregivers at night give them tremendous care, but still have tremendous cash flow as well.
Let's talk about payments now from the residents themselves.
Hmm.
Obviously, they can pay out of pocket if they want to. Um, this might be a three-part question. You may want to go one at a time. Let me say,
Sure.
does assisted living now,
Hmm.
residential assisted living, they can pay out of pocket, but does either insurance, Medicare, or Medicaid pay for that?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you there's 5 different ways that somebody can pay for it. And the
Okay.
first one is Medicaid, Medicare. And frankly, that's what most people are going to end up using because they're not
Okay.
prepared for anything. So, let alone $5,000 a month for 3 or 4 years, they don't have that kind of money. So, unfortunately, they're going to end up spending down all the money they have, selling off all their assets. Then they're going to go to the state and say, can I please have some money? And the state's going to say, we'll pay up to $2,000. We'll start with your Social Security, your pension, sell all of your assets and your income. So we're actually only going to pay
That's what happened to my
$500 a month.
grandmother. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
so that 2,000 is half of the average home. So if the average home is $4,300 a month and they're only able to pay $2,000 a month, the home they're going to be able to stay in is going to be a lot lesser. And it could be they're cutting back on caregivers, cutting back on the quality of the food, cutting back on the facility itself. So I'm going to suggest that. And let me keep going though to finish the answer.
Sure.
The idea of Medicaid, Medicare is kind of number one. The next that a lot of people think of, they can go to the VA. Well, certainly if you're a vet, you can go to the VA, but not everybody is. I can't go to the VA for someone. They have to go, they get the money and they can pay it to me. So the vet or VA. And then another one is to, frankly, this is what most people do. They'll just liquidate their assets. What they were going to pass on to the kids, the house, the retirement account, everything just gets liquidated to pay it. And then at that point, there's one other choice. And if they were really well prepared, they'd have a long-term care insurance policy. That long-term care insurance policy they may have had for 30 or 40 years, and it'll take care of them for years. And that's great.
Wow.
The final way, the best way, is to literally start your own residential assisted living. So this way you can move into the master bedroom, live for free.
It's your house.
It's your house. You can move into the master bedroom, and you hand selected all the caregivers and treated like a king and a queen. It's a good thing.
So what you're actually saying in a way is that you can say, like a younger person could start this. Then when the time comes that they need to be taken care of, they're pretty much already set at that point. I mean, I guess you'd say they're getting paid to have someone take care of them in a way.
Yeah. And when you said younger, Bob, that's an interesting thing because, younger might be 50 years old, right? They're younger. They're not going to need it themselves for 30 years, but their parents might be getting ready for it. So imagine if you had one of these homes and you were able to say to grandma, move into my home and you can live for free. What a beautiful gift to be able to give them. And it would also be a place where you know that she's well taken care of and so on. So you can do it for yourself or a parent, a loved one of any kind. And that's a really important thing. I mean, very few people have long-term care insurance, maybe 10% or less. Most people really are not prepared. They're going to spend down everything they've got, or then their kids who are 50, 60 are going to take their future retirement account or their kids' college education. And once that's all goes away, then they're going to go to the state and say, can I have a little? And that's not a good position to be in.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier. I didn't know what you said. You said ways you could pay for it. You said DA. No, what is that?
VA, the Veterans
VA. I said
VA.
VA.
Sorry about
Victor.
that.
I'm sorry, Victor. Okay. The VA. Okay, gotcha. I was thinking, surely he doesn't mean the district attorney, DA. That's where I was going. Like, why would you talk to the DA? I know.
No, we don't want to talk to the DA. Sorry.
So the VA will help in this case too.
Well, if you're a veteran, veterans have all kinds of wonderful benefits, and as they should. And one of them is the ability to get some of their long-term care insurance paid for. If they were in active duty, even one day in active duty, they or their spouse, their widow, can receive benefits. It's called aid and attendance, and that's up to $2,200 a month for that. But
wow,
yeah, but that's for a veteran. If you are a vet, thank you, and you should apply for whatever benefits you can get from the VA.
Okay, and Randy, by the way, is a veteran, the one you just heard from earlier.
There you go. Well, Randy, I want you to open up your own house. You don't have to do the maintenance at all, and you can live in the master bedroom when it's your time. But in the meantime, I mean, it's a very lucrative business. $4,300 a month times 10 people. If you can be making $10,000 a month each month from just one single family home, that's a great business. A lot of people could live off that.
Okay. We got a thumbs up there too. Well, that's great. So how do people, let's say people watching this, you've sparked their interest, they're really wanting to go and they like your training. What would you suggest for them?
Well, if you lack training, I highly encourage you to come and get trained. And I know in the show notes there'll be some places you can go. I've written books on the topic. The one that I'm happy to give to you for free is Blueprint: How to Start Your Own Residential Assisted Living Business. And that book is available. Real easy website. I'll give it to you now, Bob, if you want. You can write it down and make sure it's in the show notes.
Okay. Go
It's
ahead and give it to me. I'll put it up there for right now. Go ahead.
3 letters and 3 numbers, RAL101.com. So RAL, which is residential assisted living, RAL101.com. You can download that book for free. There's a webinar you can watch, and you can give us a call and we can have a conversation to discover if this is a good business for you.
You said RAL1.com, right?
RAL101.com.
Okay, let me put that up there really quick. Is that correct?
You got it. Perfect.
All right. Okay, and then, but I want to tell you more about this one here. Let me bring that up. Let's see if I can bring this one up. Tell us about this website.
Sure. Well, that's the big long website. You can either do ralacademy.com, but when you go there, my goodness, I have a lot of information for people because I want you to be educated. I want you to know what it takes and if this is something you want to do. Because I really do think, Bob, that last year was a real awakening for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are saying, man, my job I thought was secure, but it's not. And, they let me work at home, but now I can't. Got to go back. I don't want to go back to work. Or they figured it out that a 9 to 5 job at an hour commute each way isn't really what they want to do. So this is an opportunity on a real estate play as well as a business play. And I think it makes a lot of sense to a lot of people. But there's a term that I use, and that's the silver tsunami of seniors. The baby boomers are not in assisted living. They're about 10 years out. But when they come, they're going to hit the shore like a tsunami,
It
and you
is.
can't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually the title of my next book that's coming out in about 2 months from now, The Silver Tsunami of Seniors.
The silver tsunami of seniors. That's what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah, because they are aging, and
Sure.
they were the ones born, World War II and post World War II.
Yeah,
And so,
1946 to 64, 77 million people. There's
wow,
10,000 people a day turning 65 right now, and there's 4,000 a day turning 85. And that's really the target group for us because somebody who's 85, not everybody moves into assisted living, but out of the 1.4 million people this year that will turn 85, hundreds of thousands of them will need assisted living. And in a lot of places, there's no room in the inn. So it's a real huge opportunity for any business person out there.
I see. I was just curious. I mean, I guess it could happen. I never know, but when a person, and we're talking about nursing homes here, when a person goes to a nursing home, very rarely it does happen. They can come out,
Mm.
and live a good life. But have you ever seen like someone in assisted living that they're in assisted living, but maybe some circumstances where they come out, they want to live again on their own? Is that a possibility? Have you ever seen that?
We've seen it on a infrequent basis. I won't say rare, but infrequent basis in residential assisted living. It might happen 2% of the time, because
Okay,
by the time somebody moves into assisted living, they really do need help, and their level of need and care is just increasing every day. But occasionally, there is somebody who does get to a point where they can go home. Usually it's at a point where they not only are they getting a little better, but the family is saying, I really want them at home for these last
sure.
months or years. But it's
Christmas, whatever,
yeah,
Yeah,
it gets difficult. It really does. The farther somebody goes, the longer, the harder it is for them to come back home at that point.
sure. Got a comment from Kathleen. I'll see what Gene, if you can give her any advice. This is
Sure.
what she said. She says, I'm a baby boomer. So what would
It's
you advise for her then?
I'm a baby boomer too, Kathleen. So I'm going to suggest that you open up your own residential assisted living home because
There
you
you
can help
go.
a lot of people. You can make great money now. And when it's time, you can move into the master bedroom. And then when you're done at that point, you go on to heaven and you can pass it on to your loved ones, and they get a great income stream for the rest of their life as well.
But that's terrific. Yeah, because it doesn't have to be depressing. It can be something exciting. I mean, you're building up your future, and and you just mentioned something earlier. And in today's time, it's here in the 2020s. You know, jobs are not secure anymore. I mean, most states are at will employment, which means an employer can get rid of you at the moment's notice. And I myself, years before, was a victim of a layoff. I thought I was going to retire from this job, and a merger happened. And you know what happened with mergers?
Hmm.
A lot of people get displaced. So this is a business that would be long term, obviously. And like you said, it would be passed on to your generation, your kids, your grandkids.
Yeah. And you probably don't play a lot of hockey down in Texas, but Wayne Gretzky, the great one in hockey,
Oh yeah, yeah.
he's always quoted when he's asked, "How are you so good? You're not that big, not that strong, not that fast." And his response is always, "I go to where the puck is going, not to where it's been." So where the puck is going when it comes
Mhm.
to our demographics, it's an aging demographic. We've got a tsunami of people coming. In 1960, let me think for a second. In 1960, yep, there was about 10 million people that were 75 and above. By
Oh wow.
2060, they're projecting over 30 million people. So that's a 300%. That's a huge, massive increase. The fastest growing demographic on planet Earth. And that's worldwide, by the way. We say world war. Well, that means not just the US. This happens in Poland and England and Canada and Australia. It's all over the world where this is happening. But that's where the puck is going. The baby boomers have been driving the world's economy for 70 years now,
All this time.
and their last stop is assisted living.
Mhm. So, what would be your advice? Like, for example, okay, say that we've already got our building. We know we're going to do this. I mean, what would be, I mean, I guess I could say supplies that you would need. I mean, you would obviously need the food, any kind of, if I can
Well,
mention maybe depends or anything like an older
well,
person would need, or
instead of going that route, I really, really need to encourage people. I don't want you in the business unless you're trained. So,
I
the
see.
last thing in the world, because we get people who come to our training, Bob, and they say, "I have a house." And it's like, first thing is not the house, it's the location. So, where is the house? And if we find it's in the wrong location, sell the house, forget about it. It's not the right house. If somebody, I actually had somebody say to me once, "Gene, all you need to do is buy a house, fill it with seniors, and get a babysitter, and you're done." And I laughed and I said, if that's your thought, please do not get in this business.
Don't do that. No,
Yeah.
I would not put my loved one in a place like that.
But you wouldn't
No.
know, right? And that
Yeah.
person who's if they think that in their mind and they get into this business and realize, oh my goodness, it's much different than I thought. Well, then they may decide to do something else. So I love training people who are saying, I really want to learn, and then they're discovering, is this right for me? And if it is, then they can choose. Do I want to do the real estate, the business, or both? Some people actually just want to write a check and they want to invest in this opportunity. So that's another great way. I invest in lots of beds across the country where it's an investment. So it's a wonderful investment vehicle. It can be a great real estate play. It's a wonderful business play. It's a great way to apply your heart to something. And our motto in the company is do good and do well. So the do well part is make money. The do good is to help other people and literally change the world, starting in your own
Absolutely.
community.
And I touched on that in the beginning. We kind of got into the business part, but I want to make sure that I kind of reiterate what we talked about earlier. In this business, like you just said, you can invest in the real estate. You
Hmm.
don't have to run the assisted living.
Right.
You can buy a building, a
Yeah.
house, and let somebody else lease it from you,
Hmm.
and then you're getting residual income from that real estate, that
Yeah.
property.
Yeah, rental property is a great way to make money in real estate. You get the appreciation, somebody else is paying your mortgage. But the key is you can charge a higher rate. And sometimes people ask me and they say, well, how can you charge more? You can charge anything you want, or you can accept anything you want. If somebody's willing to pay it, I'm willing to accept it. But you know, I've had people come to our training. They say, Gene, I have one of these homes that I've been leasing to somebody else. I charge them the regular fair market rate. They've been there for 10 years. They're the best tenants I've ever had, but I didn't know I could charge them more. Well, you can charge anything you want. And they can't just pick up and move their business to another house or a mile away. It's
Sure.
not easy for them to do that. So they once they learn that, many times when the next lease renewal comes up, instead of charging them $1,500 a month, they're like, we're going to charge you $2,500 a month. And the owners are, well, I guess we'll have to pay 2,500. So,
So a person that's interested, maybe not in the business, but the real estate part.
mhm.
Um, I mean, they could buy the property, but how would they? I guess I'm asking, how would they advertise? Okay, for example, I bought this house at 123 Main Street. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm buying it. How would they look like for an assisted living person to
Mhm.
operate a business from that location? What would be your advice for them?
First of all, if you do it that way, that's going to be very difficult. because
Okay.
you should go the other route, which is you find that person who either has a home and they want to get a second home, or maybe they just came out of our class and they're saying, I want to be the operator, but not the real estate investor, or I don't have the
Okay.
money for the real estate. So if you find them first, then you can say to that potential operator and tenant of yours, where should I buy a house? What location? And they're going to tell you the location because they're smart and they've been trained to know what location. Then you say, well, what kind of house? Single story, two story, three story, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms? Then that real estate investor can go find that. And then they can come back and say, I found this house. Will this work? If they say yes, great. Close on the house, sign the lease, do the repairs necessary based on that lease, that tenant. You can even have the tenant, that person who's going to run the residential assisted
Mm-hmm.
living home, do the renovations or do the repairs that are needed to the
It's a good
house.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are
But
you
it's find the
seeing?
tenant
Okay.
first.
What
Yeah.
are you seeing as far as income? And we'll divide this two ways. It might be the same person, the person who invests in the property and assisted living runs itself, or the person who actually runs the assisted living. Is there, I guess you'd say, a median profit range in there, or does it depend?
It's really interesting because I think a lot of people don't correlate this, but the more risk, the higher the reward. The more hands on, the more effort that you're putting in, the higher the pay. So, for instance, if you went to the store, more than likely there's somebody or a corporation, an entity that owns the dirt, literally the dirt lot. They've leased that for 99 years to a company that owns the building. So then they lease the building to the company that operates the storefront that you're walking through, and they have a 10-year lease with 10-year renewals. So the person who owns the dirt may be making 4% on their money because it's very stable. Doesn't matter what happens, they're going to get paid. It's very secure. The person with the building might be making 10% of their money. Then that person who's operating the business might be making 30%. So it's really different in regards to how hands on, how hands off, how secure is it. But the dirt, the building, the business, that right there, a business has a lot of moving parts, a lot of people they have to deal with, schedules, people. The dirt doesn't really matter. The dirt's going to be dirt when you start and when you finish. It's just 99 years later.
Sure, absolutely. So I just like, and again, that kind of goes back to what you said earlier when I asked the question: should they start small or
Mm.
start big? Obviously, the risk will be better starting big, but then you're looking at more profit margin when you do that.
Right. And I think it depends too. We've had people come to our class where their whole goal was their mom was in assisted living and they wanted to start their own so mom could move in. Well, that's different. That's all about speed. If that's the case, I want you to just get up and running quick while mom's still alive and she can move in. If you're
Hmm.
looking to take care of mom, and maybe it's something this simple, Bob, where it could be just like you started off with, grandma has a house. Maybe it's moved 3 or 4 residents in with her in her own house. So that pays for the caregivers. It's enough income that the expenses are
Absolutely.
paid and mom is living comfortably, but now she has care and a few friends. So it really depends on the purpose. Some people get in for the real estate investment, some get in for the business and the huge income, some get in because mom needs care right now, some get
Sure.
in because mom needs care 20 years from now. So I want to be prepared today. And from a business perspective, we have people getting in this industry who want to scale. They don't want to do just one home, they want to do 100 homes, package them together, and sell it off
Wow.
to the hedge funds for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's great. And you mentioned something earlier too about, okay, like we'll take my grandma's house again, which is a 4 bedroom house, by the way. And but you mentioned, okay, you can rent out a room per person, but you mentioned earlier that people can share a room. You could have like two
Mhm.
twin beds in there if you want.
Exactly. Yeah, and actually that's a great situation. The When somebody comes in the front door, more than likely they want a private room with a private bathroom.
True.
Maybe you have 2 bathrooms in the house and 4 bedrooms, so not everybody can have a private
No, they
bathroom.
can't. Yeah, right.
But if
Hmm.
you could charge, let's say, $500 a month more if they had a private bathroom, well, even if it costs you $5,000 to put in a toilet and a sink, which it won't cost you that, and if you could charge $500 a month more, you'll recoup all that money in less than 1 year. That's kind of a no brainer business wise. When it comes to the bedrooms itself, you may have a front room, a parlor, a dining room, a family room.
The
You can,
garage.
yeah, garage. You can convert some of the interior space and make
Yeah.
2 bedrooms there. And all of a sudden, you have enough space for another 5,000 here and 5,000 there. Uh, it can really add up when you start to expand and you start to think creatively.
That's great. And like I say, nobody wants a nursing home. Nobody. But sometimes it's a necessity. But if you can avoid that by any means, assisted living, and I want to reiterate to my audience, it's you're keeping the quality of life for your loved one.
Hmm.
That's how I look at it. I mean, you've got someone there that's caring for them 24/7. You can go see them, but at least you're getting a little bit of a break too, and you're in quality care. So that's how I kind of choose to see it.
Yeah, that's a wonderful way to see it as well. And I think it's really neat because a lot of people who get into this industry had a personal experience, just like you did, like I did, and they look at it and say, "I think I can do it better. I would do it this way, and I would have this kind of activity."
Absolutely.
You got excited when I mentioned activities. So imagine being able to choose what activities, being able to choose what kind of food. And some people say, "I want to have all organic food." And we're even going to have the seniors help grow the food on site, and
Yes.
that's their magic of what they do. Other people, like one of our students, just opened an incredible home down near Nashville, Tennessee. I know that they're going to be focusing on music. There's a lot of musicians there, a lot of families with
Hmm.
loved ones who will be able to move into a place like that. Some are focused on music, some on food, some on everyone should focus on the care, of course. But you get the point. There, you can have nuances that makes your home special.
And for my grandmother, they actually had a church service. They would have somebody come in on a Sunday and have a little bitty a church service just for these small group of seniors. I mean, they sing song. They even did the Lord's Supper and stuff,
Mhm.
and that really perked the seniors up too. And they had activities and games. So yeah, there's it. And when you're like you just said, when you're running a position like that or place like that, you can kind of decide on your own. Okay, arts and crafts day, game day, church day.
Mhm. Yeah,
Gives a quality of life.
absolutely.
Let's kind of go back to kind of what you talked about before. For people maybe that just tuned in, tell us about this website. What will they see if they get on this website here?
Yeah, I've written a number of books, and if you'd like to get one of the books, it's called Blueprint: How to Start Your Own Residential Assisted Living Business. It's free. You can download that right at that website, ral101.com.
Okay.
I've also done some webinars so that you can watch them, not long, maybe 45 minutes worth, and you can watch it, and you'll learn a lot about the business, the industry, the opportunity to help other people do
Sure.
good and do well. And then if you'd like to, there's a place to sign up to do a phone call. So our team can have a call with you and answer questions for you to kind of discover if this is the right thing for you. And then we train people. We're having one of our trainings this weekend, as a matter of fact, where there'll be about 100 people in the room, and they're coming from all over the country to learn for 3 days in what we call an immersion class. So they're going to learn everything they need to know about starting this business, what it is, what it isn't, the do's, the don'ts, the good, the bad, the ugly. So we love to share it, and we're going to teach it for 3 days this weekend. We do that training 8 times a year. And so we do it online, and we also do it live in person as well.
So you can do it online, or if they want to do it live in person, where would they go? Where are you located at?
We're in Phoenix, Arizona. So
Phoenix.
everybody flies into Phoenix, easy airport, easy to get to. And
Okay.
we do it right near a hotel at the airport. And we do it there because part of it is we get in a bus and we go and we drive and we see some of the locations. And getting
Sure.
the context for the content is important. Plus, we have about 10 people from the team at the REL Academy there. So there's
Oh,
a
great.
lot of interaction, a lot of networking, a lot of we throw a party when we do our training too. So we have a great time as we do it, and people learn a lot in person.
I may have to get on a flight to Phoenix pretty soon.
You should.
uh,
It's a great training, and you'll learn a lot. And even if you're just an investor, when I say just an investor, meaning you're saying I don't want to be an operator, fine. When you come, you'll learn what a good operator looks like. So just like when I was saying to you, Bob, if somebody starts by buying a property, then looking for the tenant, wrong. They should find the tenant first,
the
that
tenant.
operator who's
Right.
going to say, I'll be that person who's going to release it for 5 years, and I want the house to be here, looking like this. You do this, this, and this. So we show all of that.
That's like a great opportunity. And plus, I tell you, for me, it touches the heart too, because again, we all have senior family members that we've had, and so just keeping that quality care
Yeah,
as well as the business opportunity, I think is worth its weight in gold.
I agree. It's a great business to be in. And I think one of the most rewarding things is you had mentioned this along the way, but when I walk into a home and spend, it might be an hour with a senior who I see a picture frame with pictures going by. It's one of those digital ones. And
Yes.
just sitting down, taking the time to learn about them, the pictures, their background. And I know that I've learned things about people that their own grandkids don't even know. Just because I took the time and I had the time to be able to do it. So it's a very rewarding career as well.
Absolutely. Okay, I got that website up. Now tell us about this one again. Kind of that's the main website, correct?
Yeah. And actually, the RAL Academy will get you there too. That's a lot of letters when I see it right
Yeah.
spelled out there. But Residential Assisted Living Academy.com, that really goes right into here's what we do. There's a video about me. You can meet the entire team. There is other videos that you can watch, webinars you can learn from, and it describes to you the training in depth. So whether you go to RAL 101 or go to RALacademy.com, both of those are great websites to go to, and all roads lead to Rome. You can still get the book and the webinars and the phone call.
You'll find a way to get maneuver through there, correct?
Yep, exactly.
Well, Gene, that's kind of all the questions I had. I appreciate you being on the show. I've learned a lot,
Good.
and not just we've heard of assisted living, but I've never really thought about the business part of it. That's one thing I've never really thought of. So you've really kind of opened some doors up there, and I hope not just me, but people that's watching this have maybe get them thinking, and maybe you can give them more information along the way. That's to me, it makes sense because
Mhm.
you're doing it not just for yourself, but you could be doing it for Uncle Joe or Aunt Sally who might
Mhm.
need that service later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, it's our motto is do good and do well. So if you'd like to make money, if you want to help other people, it's a great business to be in. And I think, as I said, everybody's going to get involved one way or the other. So make a good choice and learn all you can. And if you'd like to learn more, REL 101 or the RELacademy.com, both great websites to go to get the information.
Well, Gene, before we sign off, we do have one question before we sign
Sure.
off. Gene Hudson has a question, probably for you. How would you answer this? So, how do you find your state rules on this?
Yeah, number one, Google is your friend. So
Okay.
put in your state, Texas, TX. Put in the words assisted living, even if it's called something different in your area, and then put in DHS, Department of Health Services. So
Okay.
DHS, the state, and then assisted living. It's going to get you to a .gov website, GOV. So .gov
Okay.
website. Now here's the challenge. Government websites are wonderful and they're horrible. They're wonderful because they have a ton of information. The hard part is finding what you're looking for. So
Right.
you may struggle with it a little bit, but good news is we do know the rules in virtually every state. So call us and we can help you get the information you're looking for. And you can do that by setting up that call at the REL101.com.
Okay. Well, Gene, great. Thanks for asking the question. And Gene, I appreciate. Well, Gene, I talked. There's two different Genes now. I just now thought. Gene
you,
meet Gene. Gene
you
meet
got a
Gene.
pair of jeans. That's what it is.
That's right. Oh, very good. Very sharp. You got to remember that one. Well, Gene, I appreciate you being on the show. Like I said, again,
Sure.
I've learned a lot, and turning it into a business or making it a business opportunity is not something not everybody thinks about. So hopefully, this gets some people thinking. And again, it's a good investment for your family as well.
Amen. Thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate that. Always remember to do good and do well.
Okay, thank you, Gene, and you have a great evening.
Thank you.
Bye bye. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for tonight's episode of the Van Buren Variety Show. I was always glad you joined us. Make sure to join us next week for another individual guest talking about another topic. So you don't want to miss that. So make sure you hit that subscribe button because that way you'll hear more shows coming up. And again, I said it before, we might be expanding the show a little bit. There might be some specials during the week that I'm working on right now. So if you go and subscribe to that, you should be able to keep track of that. A great topic tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And again, like I said in my monologue, we all have senior family members that are getting older that need help. Again, on a personal note, that was me and my grandmother. She's passed, but she's got her heavenly reward now, and she's at peace. But just to know that she had 24/7 care in the last 2 years of her life, is very comforting to me. And I still got to see her. We still got to talk. So be thinking about that, ladies and gentlemen, not just on a personal basis for either yourself or your loved one, but be thinking of the opportunity as well, from a real estate perspective, leasing it to an assisted living or operating one yourself. So that might be something you might want to look at. Again, ral101.com, and you'll see all of Gene's information there. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Van Buren Variety Show. I hope you all have a great evening. Good night.